Great. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present in the showcase. So we're delighted to be here and looking forward to the discussions. So as you heard, my name is Jenny Corlett. I'm the Director of Bader International Study Centre Initiatives, and I act as a liaison between the BISC campus, the UK campus for Queen's, and the Kingston campus. So I am based here in Kingston. And I'm joined by my wonderful colleague, Nadya Allen, and she oversees the international portfolio in the Faculty of Education. We'd also like to acknowledge our wonderful BISC colleague, Liz Hubbell. She teaches the professional skills course to the concurrent education students who study at the BISC. And Liz is currently on maternity leave. So she gave us her blessing to present her experience on running this COIL during the 2020-21 academic year. So I'm going to hand things over to Nadya to take us through our agenda.
Hi, everyone. So today we're going to give you a brief overview, tell you about what is COIL, what it stands for. We'll give you an example of our specific COIL project. We'll go over some positive outcomes and benefits and some of the challenges and learning points that we experienced. And now back to Jenny.
Thanks, Nadya. A bit of a back and forth. So there's no question, I think, for any of us that the global pandemic created challenges, but it also created opportunities for intercultural learning, and certainly the BISC was no exception here. For those who may not be familiar with the Bader International Study Centre, or the CASL, as it's often called by our students, it is the UK campus of Queen's, and we run a number of global learning programs for undergraduate students there. And our flagship program is the first year program. So the Queen's students can opt to do their first year of university at the CASL in either arts, science, concurrent education, or health sciences. And so during 2021, like Queen's Kingston, we pivoted to online learning with our BISC Online Plus. So students could still take advantage of having small classes, the learning community at the BISC, and they were closely connected to their professors who were either in the UK or other locations. So one of the advantages for Con Ed students who opt to study at the BISC is the chance to learn about the British education system in the Prof 110 Self as Teacher course, but they also get to do practicums in UK schools. So knowing that the students weren't going to have this opportunity to be in the UK because of the pandemic, the Prof 110 instructor, Elizabeth Hubbell, she introduced a collaborative online international learning, or COIL project, in partnership with Coventry University in the UK. So this way our students would have the opportunity to interact with UK teacher candidates and enhance their cultural learning. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about COIL, if you haven't heard of this before. So it stands for Collaborative Online International Learning. And while it gained a lot of attention during the pandemic as a way to provide intercultural and international learning opportunities, this is not a new concept. Numerous universities have been engaged with COIL projects for several years. It was developed about 15 years ago by its founder, John Rubin, and he teaches at SUNY, or he did teach at SUNY, State University, New York. And so you can see from the diagram on the slide, it's a pretty simple formula. So you have two professors from different institutions and different countries. They collaborate to plan and design a project that will be part of their own course, and allows students within their course and from each of these institutions to collaborate on this project with each other. And it counts as credit towards their coursework for their own course. So everybody's within their own course. There's no money changing hands. It's quite simple. The courses can be in the same or different disciplines, and students are receiving those credits, and they're assessed by their own professor. So it can even be in different languages. That does require a bit more planning and some intercultural training for the students. In our case, all the students were working in the same language, which was English. If you're interested in learning more about COIL, there's a ton of resources out there. And certainly SUNY created an extensive network, the SUNY COIL Global Network. You can find information there. It's a place for matching with other professors, professional support. So just we discovered as we went through this, lots of resources. So I'm going to turn it back to Nadya to take you through the project.
Muted. So it means we were quite busy exploring COIL when the pandemic first started. And how did it all start for us? Coventry University in England posted a call looking for a COIL partner, and it was shared through one of the European networks that our Faculty of Education is a member of. So in response to this call, I reached out to Coventry, and we had a Zoom meeting where I learned a little bit more about COIL and got to see some of the examples of previous COIL projects just to get some ideas and understand what it is. That specific COIL wasn't a good fit for us, for our education students, so we didn't proceed with it. But later on, Jenny and I had one of our catch-up meetings, and that's when I found out that Prof 110 students were stuck in Canada and couldn't go to England. So we wondered if maybe Coventry, being in England, would be interested in setting up a COIL for this class. I looked up an example of COIL project that Coventry had done with a different university in the past, and it was for education students, and it seemed like it might be a good fit for the students. So we reached out to Coventry, and they were, of course, happy to do this with us. We connected our instructors at the castle, the desk, and at Coventry, and provided them with that COIL previous project example, just to save on some time. So they got working. I joined a couple of the planning meetings just to help them with some support. The planning started in November 2020, and the COIL project actually launched at the very end of January, and it ran until April, so 2 full months. It was early April. And as you remember, the pandemic early days, it was so chaotic and busy. So trying to be that admin support and help them put things together in such a short period of time was important to make this successful. So in the end, our COIL was born, and we had 29 Queen students join the project, so the entire 110 prof class. But there were only 16 Coventry students from a few different education courses, and we'll touch on this point later. So the title of the project was Using Picture Books to Explore Challenging International Issues in Canadian and British Classrooms. This project aimed to share and critically reflect on how picture books can be used in the classroom to introduce or encourage further exploration of challenging cultural and social issues. And the participants compared picture books from Canada, the UK, and explored how the materials could be used in classrooms in both countries. We'll go into a few more details on that. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go into the project learning outcomes, but they're here on the screen for you. You can also connect with Jenny and I to learn more and get more details about the project. Jenny, off to you.
Yep. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to really quickly walk you through some of the components. So we had some synchronous events, and we also had asynchronous. So the synchronous events, we had a launch, and Deb St. Amal, who's the elder in residence at the Faculty of Education, did a fantastic talk for the students. And that really, about Indigenous education, the legacy of residential schools, really set the tone for the students about, how do you tackle subjects like this with young children in the classroom? So that helped set the stage for the project. They had an introductory project meeting so the students could meet and greet, go into breakout rooms, start to form their groups. And then finally, it culminated with a closing symposium, and Nadya and I were lucky enough to attend as well. It was 2 days, and the students presented their work. So they did group presentations, talked about their texts, and then we had a closing guest speaker, Mel Elliott, and she happened to be an author. She was a UK author of one of the books that was presented. So that was really special for the students. And I'll turn it back over to Nadya.
I'm not going to go into the details of the project activities because we're at 10 minutes now, but there were different topics. So this was the pandemic topic that we're discussing already published books about the pandemic and the masks, and they were providing lesson plans to their students. You can see Jenny in the picture there because we actually attended those sessions. This one was on the immigration topic. Other topics were conflict, fear, gender identity, grief and loss, homelessness, illness, immigration, pandemic, race, various different issues were covered. We have a quick little quote from a student. Just want to highlight the part where the student says that I think that it's important to listen to other people's perspectives on global issues and evaluate or compare how they're talked about and treated in classrooms in their respective countries. But you could read the full quote later. We just want to get to the main pieces. So the positive outcomes and benefits. We identified 4. So the main piece was for us that it enabled students, especially the ones in lockdown, to connect with peers across the world. And in this case, language wasn't a barrier and the time difference was manageable. It was amazing to see the great quality and creative work that the students were able to develop together, and they could walk away with ready-to-use resource packs for their practicum and have that intercultural learning that they could be using in their future classes. The scope of the project worked well with the constraints of being virtual, and it helped us develop a new partnership with the university in England and learn from them. Jenny?
But with POTAs, there's also challenges, and there were definitely numerous challenges, which certainly we can get into more in the discussion for those interested. The student imbalance was an issue. We had a couple groups that didn't have a Coventry student. The faculty were wonderful from Coventry, but they were also in a different scenario where they'd already planned their whole course, and so they already had their assessments, and so they weren't able to adjust. And that meant the Coventry students were not getting credit, whereas our students were. So that, I think right away, that creates a different dynamic. So there was a level of engagement that was different. Obviously, the Queen students, much more engaged. They were also first year, so super keen, but they still enjoyed being able to have the connection. We would change the length of the project. Liz felt it was too long. I think she felt it could be much shorter, and that might help with student engagement. We don't have experience with this. This was the first COIL that Queens had done. So certainly we're happy to share those lessons learned. There were some technical issues and with teams not syncing. So the students had to find their own ways. But Coventry was amazing. They have been doing this a lot longer. They have a ton of resources, and we discovered that we need to work on some pieces like about security, about privacy, social media policy. So they had those resources for us, which was fantastic. And they also gave Liz a certificate for participating within their network. And so that was kind of a nice thing for the instructor. So I know we're at time. That was really quick, a whistle-stop tour of COIL, but we're looking forward to the discussion. So thank you.